Hi, my name is Joseph Azzam, and very quickly, introduction, I'm the technical evangelist for Middle East, North Africa, and Turkey. This is my Twitter handler. If anyone has any questions, you can always just tweet them at me after the presentation or at any time, basically. So, a bit of my background: I started as a technical designer working on a VR game on my own project. It was mostly focusing on photogrammetry using Unreal Engine, and we're working on historical locations. Um, I teach game development at St. Joseph University. I'm one of the organizers of the Lebanese game developer community. And also, last year I started with other developers the Arabic Games Conference, which is an online conference focusing on providing talks in Arabic and content in Arabic and highlighting the Arabic community. So, um, Epic Games basically has grown a lot in the last couple of years. It was founded 29 years ago. It is still owned by the same person who started, which is Tim Sweeney. It is now has offices in around 15 countries, 52 offices in total, more than 2,600 employees, and we've won a lot of awards basically in the past. And all thanks to Fortnite, we managed to expand the company a lot. But Fortnite has a lot of advantages itself, which is having this massive user base allowed us to uh, tweak our engine and improve it. And it challenged everything about it, all of our services, and it pushed us to make them as best as possible as we can. Anyway, so we constantly release frequent updates. It is cross-platform, and there's also the Party Hub. And right now we have around 15.3 million concurrent users, and in total there's 350 million Fortnite accounts. So uh, our biggest updates were when we released in-game events, and the latest one was with Travis Scott when we had 27 million unique users just in one session. And in total, we had 45.8 million users attend all 5 shows. So basically, the song was really popular. It was number one on most streaming platforms, and it ran really good. So there's also the Galactus event, which is not a concert. It was more like an interactive game, and it happened to have 15.3 millions as well. So all of these are pushing the engine to be the best that it can. And so what does Epic do? So basically, we make our own games. We have really successful titles on multiple platforms. We have Fortnite, Gears of War, Unreal Tournament that we released on PC, Robo Recall for VR, Infinity Blade for mobile. And we use this technology basically we give it away for people to use it. It's available for everyone to use in games, but also non-games project. And I'm gonna go over all of these industries. So our goal is to empower creators. And the thing is, our technology is for creators by creators. We want to make sure that those technologies are usable in your projects. We use them ourselves, we ship project with them, and then we fine tune. So you know that whenever we add a service, it's going to be something you can use in your project, and it's going to be very reliable. It is open. It's open source. It's accessible. It is free, and it is also connecting multiple ecosystems, which I'm going to go over in a minute. Now, there is for games, not for non-games project, there is a 5% royalty, and this allows us to say that you only succeed when you succeed. So basically, and we even pushed this further when we made it completely free for games that haven't sold $1 million in copies. So basically, until you sell $1 million in copy, you are not paying anything for the engine. Is only once you start exceeding that goal means your title is succeeding, then you start paying a 5% royalty. And basically, it is unparalleled quality and fidelity, and we every time release new demos, new technologies to push the quality of our engine and how realistic we can get. Now, there are significant changes in how we live and how we work. Now, a lot of more technologies are benefiting from real time. And for example, there's cloud computing, there's artificial intelligence, there's interactive and immersive technologies. And all these uh, link really well into Unreal Engine. And another thing that we've noticed is the traditional pipeline that is used in movies, which is not real time. Usually that used to be slow, and because it's more realistic. Now for real-time pipeline, you get the result instantly, meaning you can create like interactive experiences. You can iterate a lot quicker. So you can make more tweaks and improve a lot faster. At the same time, over the years, that pipeline increased in quality. So now it can match the traditional pipeline. And now we're seeing this intersection where people in games can actually do movies inside of using those technologies, and a bit vice versa. And that's a market size of 25 to 30 billion. Another thing we strongly believe in Epic is the metaverse. And the metaverse is basically where all the technologies meet together to create this social platform where everyone can create their own experiences, share it with friends, create their own communities. They can use their own projects or maybe use characters from other games. We try to do something, and we're constantly doing it with Fortnite, where we can see a lot of crossovers between games, and we are pushing it further as well in every side, whether it's Fortnite or Unreal. And yeah, this is where we think everything's gonna go. Now, the engine outside of games is also used in architecture, film and TV, automotive, broadcast, live events, training and simulation, manufacturing, and advertising. So for games, it is an engine that scales really well on different platforms. And for example, you have the Final Fantasy remake, the Minecraft, Dungeons, Kingdom Hearts, or even if it was a football game where it's like PS, or something more stylized like the Pathless. So whichever type of game you're trying to do, any style of game you're trying to do, this engine scales really well from stylized to realistic to any device. And to actually scale on every device, we are supporting all the major platforms in one unified content pipeline, meaning you can make one project and you don't have to change your workflow or create a different project to ship on different platforms. There are tools that lets you maybe tweak some parameters so the game would run better on different platforms, but most of the stuff is handled by the engine itself. When using one tool, it is guaranteed that it will work on all platforms. Also, to do so, you have full access to the source code. You have Blueprint, which means you can even ship a game without coding, depending on the scale. It is next-gen ready. It already supports PlayStation 5 and the Xbox One, and it already comes with multiplayer support and, of course, the graphics. Now, already 46% of the announced next-gen consoles are using Unreal, whether it's Mortal Kombat, Crash Bandicoot, Jedi, Fallen Order, or Final Fantasy Remake. And let's see. Now, let's look at TV. So one of our latest success stories is The Mandalorian. And the way The Mandalorian works is they create a set, which is very small, and then they have a giant LED TV in the background. So it is linked to the camera position. And as the camera is moving, the picture will adjust to match the camera position and field of view. That way you can get the final shot immediately. Instead of having like green screens and mix everything else, the director can already watch the whole shot as he's filming it. And he's doing this because Unreal Engine provides low latency, real-time graphics that are realistic, that can match the environment. But the second advantage is that screen emits light, so we can see here the reflections that are emitting at the props, and that is coming from the LED screens. And yeah. So Unreal Engine integrates really well into the film and TV pipeline. There's actually a small graph I'm going to show how it can integrate. But here are some movies where for each movie, it actually integrated in a different way. So, for example, in The Mandalorian, where I mentioned, they used it for the background technology. But for example, in Game of Thrones, they used it for pre-production, where they filmed the set. They created like a 3D model of the set and tried to visualize, okay, we want the soldiers to be standing here. We want the dragon to come from there. So in VR, they managed to visualize the set before filming it in real life. And that saved them a lot of time. So welcome to Marwin. Actually, some of the characters are rendered inside of Unreal directly. Safari is a full series that is made and recorded inside of Unreal. So this is basically how Unreal integrates into that pipeline. You start with your idea, and this is where you have to do it on your own. But then from the previs to actually doing some effects, because Unreal does have green screen support. You can already film in green screen and watch it on the screen in real time. There's really good integration into all the workflow. The only thing right now that we don't support is the post-production, meaning you still have to export the final footage to edit it in a software like Nuke, for example, or Adobe After Effects. But I mean, it's only a matter of time. And another thing we can use Unreal is for broadcast and live TV. So in this case, we have the newscaster, and they're trying to explain the gravity of a hurricane. And the newscaster here, in this case, they can interact with the object because it is in real time, so it is interactive, and it blends seamlessly. So basically, they are walking here on stage, and they can, as the camera is moving as well, the object stays in space, and it allows them to visualize better the experience. So I do have some footage that I'm going to show later very quickly of those technologies in action. Also for live events, we have, for example, multi-display rendering. So if you have, a great example would be the concert with Childish Gambino, where they had a dome, and they had multiple projectors to cover all the surfaces of that dome. And Unreal can actually connect to multiple cameras, virtual cameras, basically, so it connects to multiple screens. All you have to do is say, that screen is positioned here in this environment, and the other screen is positioned there, and Unreal will do that, and now you can project your environment on multiple screens at the same time to create that immersive experience. For architecture, of course, it's a no-brainer. HOK released an example where they had this giant stadium where the client had some feedback, and they managed to change it in a couple of hours basically and show the new changes immediately. And before that, if you were to do a footage of a certain building, it can take a night, maybe even on the fastest machines, to use traditional pipelines. And now you're doing it in real time. And also, one of the other things that allows you is, instead of giving a picture or a video to your client, you can actually walk around in the building. And the thing about architecture and other movies is that in games, it doesn't really matter if your surface is 100% looks like real gold. Worst case, you can always change the material to something else. However, in automotive architecture films, they need to mimic real environments, and they need gold to act like gold. So that means we had to work on the highest quality visuals and make them as accurate as possible, not only for materials, but also, for example, lighting. We're using incandescent and lumix values, basically. Even at some point, one of my colleagues managed to make a camera, which, if you're familiar with those boxes where you make a hole in them, and then that is one of the first cameras, and you can see an inverted image inside of it. You managed to do that inside of Unreal, because that's how accurate the lighting calculation was. Now, let's see. This is how it integrates into the manufacturing and construction. Basically, it can go into the sales phase. It can go into the construction, visualization, the engineering, the simulation. There's multiple things. Now, Unreal Engine is really powerful, but sometimes for new beginners or even architecture who don't want to use all the features, we have a simplified version with a much simpler interface, which is Twinmotion, which is a tool we acquired that is built on top of Unreal. And it also integrates really well into your existing tools and Unreal Engine. If you start a project in 3D Max, for example, AutoCAD, through Datasmith, you have the option to actually export and automatically import. As you're changing stuff inside of Max, for example, the changes will reflect in Twinmotion. Twinmotion has a very simplified interface, so even a person who have never used it before can figure it out in a matter of seconds. And once you're done and you think, well, I wish I started in Unreal because I want to benefit from more features, that is okay because there's an export button inside of Twinmotion that allows you to export the whole project and continue working in Unreal. So it's really great for making your whole scene there, and it integrates well into the whole pipeline, basically. So automotive as well, we have most of the major car manufacturers using Unreal for visualizing their car. They're using it either to do commercials for their cars, or even for client to customize the car on their website and then get it, or even to like visualize it in VR where the client cannot see this model because it's not available anymore right now, or it's still in shipping or something. So they can still wear a headset and see the car like it's there. And not just cars. Air Canada use it for their planes, so it is really scalable. Okay, this is how it also integrates into that pipeline. It's very similar. There's also, it can integrate into your IoT, AI. At some point, I remember I used Unreal to create my IoT project using a Raspberry Pi and an Arduino chip, and using the plugin for Arduino, I was managing to control like a plant. So I was reading the value of if it needs water, and even water it from an interface using Unreal. So same thing for design and manufacturing, but the human-machine interface is something new that we introduced, and it's using Unreal as an interface to actually control for an object. For example, your car, you can visualize the car, visualize the speed of the engine, other sensor values. You can rotate in 3D the car and like keep monitoring everything else. And that is also the same thing that I mentioned for the project that I did with the plant. I've seen the plant inside of Unreal. I can see all the values and I can even control it. And yeah, so I'm going to show a very quick video here, and let's see. So this is how the human-machine interface works. This is an example. You're seeing here the car. Okay, I'm gonna switch now to the next. For training and simulation as well, using VR. So they can use, for example, flight simulation, military simulation. Here's a small example of all the stuff that is being used. This is, for example, an AI. They're trying to teach him how for automated vehicles, and it is actually using Unreal to understand the environment and avoid collisions. So instead of doing cars and letting them drive in real time, in real life, we can actually create a virtual environment and see how they perform there. Okay, advertising, for example. Also, they were creating like small experiences. I'm just gonna turn on audio right now. So 1 second. And here's a quick video of all the stuff used in Unreal outside of games. it again. Okay, now we're going to talk a bit about Unreal Engine and the tools inside of it. So it outputs basically to VR, computer experiences, visual production, linear output, still images, etc. You have access to third-party extensions. We're using all the open standard, like I mentioned previously. You have access to the C++ and the entire source code. Now it is free, and it is for non-games. It is completely free. For game project, like I mentioned, it is 5% royalty after you made your first 1 million. And yes, okay, Blueprint visual scripting. There's also a bit of Python support that you can use. Okay, different platforms. I'm just gonna quickly go over most of the stuff, but I already briefly covered them, so I have more time for Q&A. Datasmiths, this is the plugin that integrates into all of your tools, and basically it will automatically import and export all of your scenes as you edit them, and it's really great. You should check it out. It's built into the Unreal. You don't have to download anything except maybe the plugin for Macs, not for Unreal. It's already built in. Okay. We released recently Unreal Engine 5, and I think the most known technologies are Nanite, Lumen, the open world animation, meta sound, and UI updates. So those are the stuff I'm going to briefly talk about. And let's start with Nanite. So Nanite is a new virtual geometry workflow, and basically what it allows you to is have an infinite amount of polygons on screen. So you don't have to even rely on normal maps anymore to create those details in your scene. You can just have your high resolution mesh imported directly into Unreal. And we have a good compression ratio, meaning that technically you shouldn't worry. You should worry a bit about file size, but not as much as you think, because those meshes compresses really, really well. And sometimes just removing that normal map, that is reducing some size, and just using those details instead of the polygon. So that's great. And nice thing about it is it doesn't replace the previous workflow, it integrates really well into them. So because this Nanite is a still new feature, and if there are still some features relying on the previous technique, they're still there. You can use them in combination. So basically you can enable Nanite on the meshes where it makes sense. And we have full docs on where to use Nanite, but overall, you should probably enable it for most of your meshes. Lumen is our full dynamic solution. This is basically a free upgrade for any Unreal Engine project. If you're making a game inside of Unreal and you enable Lumen, which is enabled by default, you don't even have to have an RTX card. You have dynamic lighting that would just make your scene look amazing. So you should definitely check it out. There's the visual textures, meaning you can have infinite size textures as well. So you don't have to worry about textures. Our new Realistic 3D engine, meaning you don't have to rely on any third-party audio. You don't have to rely on F mode. You don't have to rely on any plugin. You can do everything in Unreal. You can procedure generate sounds inside of Unreal. And it all uses the same workflows you used to. Like they all have an interface similar to like Blueprint, to Material Editor, that all behave the same way. So they're very easy to pick up and they just work. And all of these combined, they're just going to make your life a lot easier. There's a lot of workflow that traditionally you had to do that now you can just skip. And you can just focus on having that game. Okay. So covered this, covered that. There's a new open world, so partitioning system. This is basically will allow you to create even bigger worlds by automatically and dynamically load sections of your map for you. So now it is a lot bigger to do. It allows easier to do bigger maps inside of Unreal. You can create your own animation and control rig. Like in this demo release, we have this character where all the animation is done in engine. The meta sound is how the interface looks like. We changed the UI of the editor, so we made it a lot easier. It is still familiar for people who use Unreal. So if you're worried about, oh no, where can I find Unreal Engine 5 tutorials? Just watch the Unreal Engine 4 and you're going to be able to use them in Unreal Engine 5. If anything, you're just going to find the buttons in a much convenient place. No. It's going to make the interface less cluttery and better. Also, projects that are using Unreal Engine 426 can upgrade to Unreal Engine 5. Now, keep in mind, this is still early access, meaning you should not use Unreal Engine 5 yet until we tell you for shipping a project. It's more about you trying the technology, playing around with it, experimenting. It is really good right now. It is quite stable, but please don't ship games with it. It's still in early access. It should be out of early access by the end of next year. And then if you may even have a project in 427 or future release of Unreal, you can upgrade to 425. It should be an easy upgrade. There's still going to be some tweaks and some things that might break you have to fix, but it is possible to move your project easily from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5. So for now, we recommend you stay to Unreal Engine 4. Okay, so of course, there's more stuff like chaos physics, the new modeling tools working on, volumetric clouds, the water system, hair, and even integration of the Quixel tools, meaning like you can actually, inside of Unreal, import all of the 3D meshes. And there's this demo called Valley of the Ancient where we demonstrated all those features. You can find it on YouTube. And yes, we're going to keep investing in R&D. Our online services we didn't have a chance to talk about, but they're there. They'll have matchmaking, and we recently introduced voice chat, and there's a lot of other stuff you can use. Just check them out. And yeah, this is where I'm going to stop the presentation so I have more time for questions. I have a few minutes, unfortunately. So if anyone has any questions, please let me know. Okay, so I have to, if someone can read the questions for me, it would be better.
Yes, Joseph. We have a question here from Game Zone Alpha. When will EOS be blueprint accessible in UE?
When will EOS be blueprint accessible? So we already released the API first, then released a plugin. I think there's already an early plugin that if you look at GitHub, you can find it still under construction. I assume it's either in 427, possibly. If not, it's going to be the next Unreal Engine version. I mean, there's already stuff that they can get now from GitHub. It's still experimental, but yeah, you can use it. Otherwise, you just have to use the API for now.
Yes. We have another question from Walid. How one start? How we start? We can start.
Okay. How can you start with Unreal Engine? Just go to learn.unrealengine.com and you're going to find a lot of tutorials there. Oh, yeah, I also forgot to mention there's also the Epic Mega Grant program. If you're making a game inside of Unreal, it's a program where you can apply for a grant. There's no string attached, so check it out, basically. There's more information on the website, and we're basically just giving away symbolic amounts of money, so it's not like a full funding, but that will help developers succeed with their projects. Yeah, so continue.
Okay, another question. It's about analytics, player behavior. Using Unreal Engine, can we create our own events metrics to be collected or to be saved on AWS?
Well, okay. Yes, of course you can create anything. The question is how easy it is to do so. Now, personally, I have not used the AWS service in depth to tell you exactly the steps for that, but there is a plugin on the marketplace for AWS to integrate into Unreal. We know a lot of people are already using it, so I will have to check probably on the AWS side the documentation they have on analytics, how they're triggered, and then it should be also using the plugin should be easy in theory, but again, I'm not sure.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Joseph, for your presentation today. It was amazing. And also, we invite you to the panel with other guys after minutes.
All right.
Okay.
Yep.